Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're exploring a truly radical concept, the idea that your brain is actually biologically wired to keep you broke. Yeah, you heard that right. If you've ever felt like saving money is this constant uphill struggle no matter how hard you budget, well, you're definitely not alone. We're going to uncover exactly why that is, and as you'll see, the problem really isn't your discipline at all. It's your DNA.
Section 1. The first $1,000 battle.
$1,000. You know, it sounds like a simple enough number, right? It's that standard baseline for a starter emergency fund. It's the crucial buffer between you and, say, a broken water heater, just completely ruining your entire month. But honestly, we need to radically reframe this. Reaching that first $1,000 isn't just some basic financial goal. It's an epic boss battle. And the ultimate enemy standing between you and that fully funded savings account, it actually isn't your paycheck. It isn't the economy. The enemy is your very own biology.
So I have to ask you directly, why is saving this so incredibly hard? Just think about your own experiences for a second. If you've ever felt that crushing wave of frustration or maybe that deep guilt associated with trying to build an emergency fund only to watch it just vanish on some random impulse purchase, I want to validate that for you right now. We constantly beat ourselves up, right? We're convinced we just lack moral fortitude or financial sense, but actually the research points to a much deeper, completely hidden force at play here.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core conflict happening right inside your head. It's practically a rigged game. Look, the math problem is incredibly straightforward. Income minus expenses equals savings. A third grader could do that on a piece of scratch paper. But that simple math is constantly losing this brutal tug-of-war against your biology, which is that formidable primal pull of immediate reward. The struggle to save isn't a failure of arithmetic. You know how to subtract. You're just fighting against human nature itself. Section 2. Your brain wants you broke.
So, let's rewind about 2 million years ago. That is when our evolutionary programming for instant gratification really began. When our caveman ancestors found high-calorie food, they obviously didn't responsibly stash it in a prehistoric 401k, they ate it immediately. Fast forward to 10,000 years ago, and human survival still absolutely demanded immediate consumption. I mean, there were no refrigerators back then, and there were literally no guarantees of tomorrow. Then, in the blink of an evolutionary eye, we arrive at the present day. Now we're suddenly hit with a highly unnatural necessity for things like retirement planning and digital bank accounts. It's a massive structural mismatch between our ancient survival instincts and our modern financial realities.
Because here is the harsh reality. Instant gratification wasn't some kind of character flaw, it was a strict survival requirement. In the totally unforgiving environment of our ancestors, prioritizing immediate gratification wasn't a sign of weakness at all. Consuming resources the absolute second they were available was pretty much the only way you lived to see the next sunrise. If you didn't take that reward today, well, a predator or a rival definitely would. So your brain was flawlessly built to consume today. It was absolutely not built to invest for decades into the future.
Section 3. Understanding temporal discounting.
So the crucial point is the psychological term for this little glitch, which is called temporal discounting. It's our evolutionary tendency to prioritize instant gratification over long-term security. Basically, the further away a reward is in time, the more aggressively your brain discounts or reduces its true value. And honestly, this is the ultimate relief angle. When you fail to save, you really aren't suffering from a lack of willpower. Your brain is literally just screaming at you to take the guaranteed reward right now. Why? Because historically, the future was never guaranteed.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how your brain values a reward today versus later. Think about that perceived value right now. It's enormous, right? The dopamine hit is a massive explosion. But offer your brain the exact same reward, literally the exact same amount of money, just 1 year from now, the perceived value absolutely plummets. Logically, sure, it's identical. But biologically, your hardware practically ignores the future in favor of a present immediate rush.
Section 4. Evolution versus long-term security.
So how does this whole biological war actually manifest in our daily decisions? Well, the reality is pretty stark. Your brain naturally, and I mean fiercely, prioritizes instant gratification over the future. This means striving for long-term security directly goes against millions of years of deeply ingrained life-saving programming. Because of this, building wealth is a biological war. It is not a math test. If you treat it like simple subtraction, biology is going to win every single time. But knowing your programming is the first step to overriding it. You really have to recognize the battlefield before you can win the fight.
If you take away nothing else from this explainer, please remember this. It is not your fault. It's simply human evolution. Just think about all those times you swore you'd put away $100, but then you gave in to some flash sale, or maybe ordered really expensive takeout after a super stressful day. Society loves to say you're just bad with money, but science? Science says you are a human being operating with 2 million-year-old software in a brand new financial world. So let that guilt go. Once you stop blaming yourself, you can actually start building real strategies to trick your ancient brain.
So the critical question becomes this: how will you fight back now that you know your own brain is kind of the enemy here? The good news is you're no longer fighting blind. You understand temporal discounting, and you get the evolutionary mismatch that's working against you. The next time you try to save that first $1,000, you know you aren't just crunching numbers. You are actively trying to outsmart your biology. So, what automated tricks and barriers are you going to put in place to finally win the war?